It's time for another episode of The Oil Stream with Dustin Nielsen and Tom Gazzola, presented by Popeye's Louisiana Kitchen.
Happy Wednesday, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Oil Stream. Nielsen and Gazzola with you, and nothing says four-game heater like Popeye's Juicy Nugs. You're going to pick some of those up. 19 Popeye's locations with more to come. You also get yourself a Popeye's chicken sandwich while you're there. Of course, you can always order at DoorDash, Skip the Dishes, and Uber Eats. And if you're not yet caught on to the Oil Stream over the last 3 years, we're presented by Popeye's Louisiana Kitchen. Tommy, what's up, buddy?
Not much. Get a side of mac and cheese, a little pepper, a little hot sauce in there. Valentina hot sauce is my go-to recommendation, and you're laughing.
Who are you, Stoff? My go-to recommendation, the Mediterranean chicken? That's what that sounded like for a second.
First of all, that sounds like not a pizza I would enjoy at all. And if I sound like Bob, I apologize. But
I've never had the Mediterranean chicken, despite the advice. I always just get the meat lovers there. So,
and I love Bob, but I don't share his palate when it comes to foods.
Yeah, I'd probably be closer along those lines, but even I haven't tried the Mediterranean chicken. All right, so we got lots to get to. We'll get to inside the numbers here a little bit later on for our wonderful partners over at Coolbet. It's part of the Nielsen Media Coolbet Network. Boston Pizza Appetizer we'll get to almost right off the top here, and we're going to be at the Kingsway Boston Pizza next Tuesday night. So a week from last night, 6 o'clock, Kingsway Boston Pizza in the lounge. You can come join us. First 10 people that pop by and say, hey, Dusty, give me the goods. I'll get you a beverage for the night. Tommy, they win again last night. A couple of wins against weaker opponents and then a couple wins against teams above them in the standings, which was very big for this team as they try to close that window and maybe move beyond a wild card spot right now. What are you seeing? What's the biggest difference here in this four-game stretch for the Oilers?
They seem more responsible about their entire game. And I know, the special teams, the power play has carried them. PK has been kind of crap all season long, even though it's gotten a little bit better, not a ton better, but it just feels like they realize you can't just, coast through a game anymore. And they got bit so many times for doing it earlier in the season. And you see that represented in the 5-on-5 numbers of late. And they've been better since the calendar flipped to 2023. They're getting some saves from their goalies, mostly Jack Campbell of late, which is also nice to see. But
yeah, big
it was interesting. Yeah, Dusty, I talked to Matthias Janmark yesterday, and I asked him about that LA game, and I said, did anything need to be said after that loss? Because it wasn't a particularly great performance. Even though Jay Woodcroft said like the 5-on-5 was fine, and they got did in and touched up, as Jay put it, on the PK, which they did. And the power play had an off night that night. But they didn't seem to have any jam to their game on that Monday last week in LA. And Janmark said they had a team meeting the next day to go over like what had happened. And it's on the heels of like they had a team meeting, players only meeting a week and a half
wasn't
prior,
it Yeah, 3 weeks ago now? Not even.
And granted, they have meetings quite frequently, but he did discuss that one. He's like, hey, we just brought it up. We said, hey, enough of this dilly-dallying. Like, we got to play here. And they went in, took care of business against two weaker opponents, and then they just played solid games on Saturday and last night, where the 5-on-5 and the goaltending and all that, and then special teams has done its thing overall. But yeah, just more responsibility, a little bit of an onus and pride in their game has started to seep in a little bit, and they're getting results against good teams. The Islanders win too, I thought, was a really good one as well before they went on the road.
They are 4-0 with Vincent Desharnais in the lineup. Now, I'm not going to try to put all of the success on him, Tommy, but in what way has he contributed to that, and how much of an impact do you think he has had on the way they play the game?
Yeah, I mean, he played less than 10 minutes last night, but
yeah,
he's been good. Like, he's not, like you said on the Smash It Nielsen show this morning, it's not the Niemelainen 3 to 3.5 when they're going 11-7. There's an element of, or a presence to him, I think, when you have a giant of a human being like that, who you can comfortably roll out there for the most part all night long. He played late in the game in Vegas, and he had, a decent amount of shifts last night, but they held him back a little bit more than usual because Bouchard and Broberg were playing better. But Desharnais, like, I'm sorry, when you see a guy that's huge like that, like literally just a monster of a human being, it comes with the presence, and he moves well enough. And I joked with him. I was talking with him yesterday after the morning skate, and I was like, hey, I noticed the thing that stood out to me is when you grabbed Keegan Colasar, kind of ragdolled him and shook him. And Colasar is not a small guy. He's a big guy. And Desharnais was just, ragdolling him. He's like, well, I'm not a tough guy, but like I had to tell him I didn't like what he did to Draisaitl. I was like, you're not a tough guy. I just watched like 10 of your fights. Sure, they weren't knockouts or anything like that, but he steps up. And I'm sorry, if you're that big and you're in a competitive
but nowadays in the National Hockey League, buddy, that's all you need. You're not going around and having to battle with a bunch of heavies. Like that's gone. Those days are gone.
Nailed it. And if he's going out there and getting his message across to someone because he didn't like what they did to one of the star players, we've seen and discussed so many times this season the Oilers lacking that element to the team game. With Desharnais, they've got that. And you know what? He's come as described. He moves the puck okay. He throws the body. He gets in there. He clears the net when he can. And I think he's been all right. His puck touches have been fine. It's been a good ad. Let's see if he could continue with this good play.
You have to go, like, you have to keep rolling 11-7 with one of the main purposes behind it, keeping him in the lineup. Like, is he going to be the driver behind the 11-7 setup right now?
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, I know they talked about him being on the left side at times in the AHL. This is a whole different ball game here. This is a guy in his infancy of his NHL career. He still has to carve it out. He still has a lot to prove. He's probably still riding that adrenaline high right now. I don't know if you want to throw him onto the left side all of a sudden just because he's played a little bit of it in the AHL. So I think you do, when you want him in the game, you do put him on in an 11-7 situation. And guess what? They're having success with it, and why mess with a good thing? And for whatever reason, Woodcroft pointed it out yesterday. He's like, the last time we played 12-6, we lost to LA. Okay, but like, I think if you want Desharnais in for the time being until someone gets banged up, you go 11-7.
I would be interested to see. Now, I don't want this to happen. Obviously, not going to wish injury, but I would be interested to see if somebody on that right side gets banged up. Like, how would he handle 16, 17 minutes? Like, it's probably the only way you're going to get to see that. And I'm sure there'll be a guy that gets nicked up in the second half of the year, has to miss 2 or 3 games here or there, and give him an opportunity for more ice time. But I'd be interested to see what that looks like. I think he's accomplished that at least so far.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a good situation all around, and it's nice to see that opportunity come to fruition and him seizing it too so far, which is also nice to see. That's a good find for the scouting staff.
Jay Woodcroft said they called him the Seaweed Man back in the American Hockey League. That can't continue. Like, we got to come up with a better nickname in this city for this guy outside of the Seaweed Man. Like,
yeah, I mean, too, like, you go and talk to him, and he's a great interview. Obviously, he's a true personality. And I went, hey, Vincent, I'm Tom Gazzola, TSN, Edmonton. And he goes, no, Vinny, I'm Vinny. So maybe we call him like the boss or something like that.
Vinny.
The hitman. I don't know. Something mafioso because of that Vinny name, even though he's French.
You don't mess with Vinny. Vinny will take care of business. Yeah. It's not like those lines. Yeah. Never been a big gangster myself, mobster, so I don't really know how that works.
Well, you're a natural-born gangster, bebe.
Evander Kane, I thought, it wasn't a goal and 2 assists or anything, but I thought overall a very encouraging return to the lineup for Evander Kane last night.
So did I. Good to see him around the net. He had the most shots on the team last night, 7. Shooting the puck with that wrist, Dusty, I think that's a good sign as well. And a couple of those opportunities, like, at least he got them. That's a good indicator. And at some point when he gets those opportunities or continues to get those chances in and around the net, he'll convert. There was one pass. It was like a 2-on-1. McDavid put it to him, like, kind of in tight, and it was caught between a backhand.
That was kind of tough. Like, that was a tough one.
And then there was kind of like a back door where he just didn't have the right angle to tap it in. But he's there. He's there. He was physical. He was on the PK a little bit. I thought that was, and obviously when you get a guy like that, his presence boosts the group. He's been a good teammate. We're coming up on, I think we're at a year now, or coming up on a year of him being an Oiler. Good on him. Now that has to continue. All indicators are he's been good. as opposed to, what happened in Winnipeg, Buffalo, and San Jose. That needs to continue on. And on the ice, I thought that was a pretty good return. Let's see how he continues to make progress, because he's probably riding that adrenaline as well after missing 31 games. And when he gets to game 5 or 6, maybe it catches up to him a little bit. But the guy's a physical freak, as we know. And he's been in the league long enough that I think that whatever lull he might go through, if he goes through one, it'll be brief.
We are going to get to some of your questions on this episode of the Oil Stream. So if you're watching live on Twitter, hit us up in the Say Something section there with any questions that you have or any comments on the episode today. We also had a bunch of people submit some questions a little bit earlier on, so we'll get to a few of those as well. Fogle had been scratched. Derek Ryan had been scratched. Now, Jesse Puljujärvi last night was scratched. There's an interesting... You got the trade deadline is sort of one deadline, and then Kyler Yamamoto coming off the LTIR, I believe it's February 12th, he'll be able to return, Tommy. That's kind of another deadline here because you're going to have to move something. One of these guys is going to have to be either waived or traded or something before that line, before that deadline when Yamamoto returns, unless, once again, somebody else could be injured, and who knows what happens. They could find a way to continue kind of moving bodies around here. But what do you think the timeline is like here on Jesse Puljujärvi over the next month and a half? What do you think happens? Is he kind of basically in and out of the lineup with Ryan and Fogle, depending on who's going at the time and who's not? Or, is he... I know people immediately yesterday thought, oh my God, he's going to be traded right away. And I don't think that's the case, but what do you think happens here now?
First of all, Ryan and Fogle had good games last night, so they
Yes, they
seized
did.
their opportunity, which, I think it's safe to say Jesse, for the most part, has not. And he'll be back in the lineup. They'll find a way to get him back in, keep him involved, certainly. And of course, there's going to be added focus, even though there's a ton on him already. I think yesterday was another, step in the direction of this, drama saga, whatever you want to call it, coming to its conclusion. You heard Saravalli talking about Ken Holland having discussions with teams, and they were actually positive. So he's been on the block. I know someone tweeted to you in regard to questions, is Jesse on the block? I don't know if that was facetious or not, but his status hasn't changed. He's been on the block for basically not a calendar year, but, as soon as the season was up, he was on the block, and he made it be known he wasn't too happy with the way things went. So he's available, and I don't know what the return's going to be, but I could say this, like, I'm seeing it on my show. I'm sure you're seeing it on your show, but the discussion and the theme around Jesse has changed. Before, there was a lot of fans saying, how dare you guys go after him? Why don't fans and people see what he brings to the table? To no, it's time to go. Now people are saying, yes, this saga needs to end. They tried, they've done everything they could. It's just not working. So, that's what I've noticed about it. And I think it'll be best for everyone. Plus the Oilers would get their cap space. That's the likeliest situation, especially if Fogle continues to seize the opportunity, because there was a time where recently he wasn't playing particularly well. You talked about the healthy scratch. I think he sees a chance here, and he's making the most of it so far. Let's see if he can sustain it. Same with Ryan.
Do you think, well, first of all, let me ask you this. Were you surprised when Saravalli yesterday said there's been some encouraging talks around Jesse Puljujärvi?
100%, because, this guy, he's been available, and there's been teams coming and scouting him.
Like, why all of a sudden would there be positive talks, right?
Positive could mean that a deal might be coming to fruition. That might be what it encompasses. But yeah, that did surprise me, and that's good. Like, I still think that Jesse is more of a throw-in or just a make cap space type of move. I don't know what the return is. Maybe it gets to a point. Maybe it's positive because the Oilers don't have to sweeten the pot. I don't know. Frank might be privy to that information. I haven't been told that stuff. But if it's positive, then maybe, there's some traction here, and they could move on from him, get that much valued and needed cap space.
Well, that's what the end goal here is. Do you think there's any way that this thing ends with him being waived?
It is a possibility. That I
mean, look what happened with Tolvanen. Tolvanen was once a highly sought after prospect with the Nashville Predators. He was waived, he was claimed, and now he's clicking extremely well in Seattle. So if that guy can get waived, I mean, why can't Jesse Puljujarvi get waived at this point? Well, I mean, is that what you think happens here? Does Ken Holland eventually just say, screw it, put him on waivers?
Yeah, Tolvanen buried last night too, by the way. That was a hell of a goal.
That was actually probably the biggest goal of the hockey game.
I don't want to mock, but that does happen from time to time. But you're right. He has been good for a strong Seattle team. The possibility of Jesse Puljujarvi being waived has been discussed, I've been told from multiple sources. Whether or not that has a ton of legs or does come to fruition, it's just been, they've had those discussions. So it is a possibility. How likely? I don't think it's very likely, but it I suppose could happen if they're throwing around that idea. Or
and if there's no other, if there are other general managers in that National Hockey looking at the situation and knowing when Yamamoto comes on the LTIR, you could have a shot at getting somebody from the Oilers for nothing, right? Why would they give up anything when you're going to sit here and play a game of chicken with Ken Holland and say, we're not going to give you anything, but you're going to put him on waivers and we're just going to claim him for nothing. So that's why I just don't see a trade getting done when everybody else knows the situation. I wouldn't give up anything for him if I knew that I could possibly get him for free in 3 weeks.
Yeah. And listen, again, those are just ideas that were thrown about, but that idea did come up, and we'll see what happens. But it feels like this is coming to its conclusion finally. And we've had a couple of false starts where we thought maybe in the summer, maybe at the draft, maybe by the end of training camp. Never happened. Oilers just kicked it down the road further and further, and it might finally be coming to its merciful end.
And that's why I'm not so sure it is, because how many times have we said, like, oh, this is probably it? Like, now they'll move him here, or now they'll move him there. And now it looks like we're in that situation again where it's like, oh, they're going to move him. But I mean, I don't know.
The difference is they're in a playoff battle or a playoff race. There is a timeline with the deadline. And they've got other guys who are performing much better, contributing much more than just points, but on special teams and stuff like that, and that have clicked. Klim Kostin has certainly made the case for Jesse Puljujarvi harder. So too has Matthias Janmark. If Fogle continues to play well, if Ryan continues to play well, Jesse Puljujarvi finds himself as the odd man out. When you don't play special teams and you're having a tough season offensively, and your defense is okay, and you forecheck well, but your puck touches aren't great, they're going to look to improve the roster. And if you're the guy that's not contributing, you're on the way out. That's just how hockey works.
One way or the other. Maybe it finally happens.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into the Boston Pizza Appetizer, and thank you. We're going to get to some of your questions here during the Boston Pizza Appetizer, so thank you very much for submitting these questions. We're going to get to them. Appy hour every day from 2 to 5, and then again from 9 until close, and we will be at the Kingsway Boston Pizza next Tuesday, the 24th, 6 p.m. Swing on by. First 10 people that roll in and say, hey, Dusty, give me the goods. I'll hook you up with a adult beverage of your choice. To sit back and enjoy the oil stream. It should be a pretty fun time. All right, Tommy, let's get to a couple of these questions. This is an interesting one. Came in from Brad on Twitter earlier. Do you think with the emergence of Broberg and Bush seeming to find his game, along with Vinny D playing like 06 Pronger in front of the net, that the trade target has changed at all for the Oilers right now, with Broberg settling in, Bouchard, that being better lately, and then obviously Desharnais mixed in here, Tommy? Is the urgent need for a defender change here?
My sense, I would say no to that, because Broberg and Bouchard, although they're playing better, they've had recently struggles, and it's nice to see Desharnais with what he's doing. But this is such a small sample size where they've turned the corner and Desharnais come in, that I don't think it changes the overall goal of improving the defense, specifically on the left side. I'm sure they're going to go out and get a veteran guy that's still a target, an area of need. And it is good to see Broberg picking it up. It is nice. He was +4 yesterday, but
almost 17 minutes.
Still a rookie. Bouchard's still in his second full year. that fact has bit them in the butt at times in the first half. It could pop up again, although it's nice and promising to see what they're doing. So no, I don't think that the target and plan for the defense to get some improvement there has changed.
I think what it probably does is just pushes us back to being a deadline decision. You know, like if everybody's still struggling, maybe there'd be more urgency to get something done on the blue line. But if they've got this sweetheart schedule coming up over the next month or so, you should be able to put together some wins and give these younger guys a little bit of leash to see what they can do over the next 3-4 weeks before the deadline, right? So that's what's been accomplished so far, I would think. Let's get to this one from Marcel. Is there any logical explanation as to why Paul Coffey's role with the organization is shrouded in secrecy? All we know is he works in a senior role, but why hide it?
I don't know. He's around sometimes. I'll just tell you what I know. He's an advisor.
Like he pops up, right?
He pops up. He checks in. I think he's a conduit between the owner and management. It didn't, from what I was told, it was kind of rocky at first because they're like, why is Paul Coffey around a second time? And then that all got ironed out, and he's on the same page with Kenny Holland and the crew. So I don't think it's shrouded in secrecy. He's just an advisor. Teams have these types of guys. I know Mike Greer brought Doug Wade on in San Jose. Same type of thing. Like it's just another set of eyes, someone to throw ideas and bounce them off of. Maybe he's in some meetings here and there, but I don't think it's anything really secret. Like Mark Messier did it for the Oilers for a bit. Teams do it. He's one of them. Steve Staios is around from time to time. Same thing.
Yeah.
These guys, they're not on the ice.
Official role-ish though, right?
They're not on the ice. They're around to help out. And I think too, like if Paul Coffey wanted to get into a hockey management role in the National Hockey League, this would be his foot in the door. Same with Steve Staios at the NHL level, because Staios obviously was with the Hamilton Bulldogs forever. These guys are around. You'll see NHL front offices like dotted with these types of roles, and it is a bit ambiguous of a role, but they're just another resource, if you will, to lean on from time to time.
All right, so there you go. That's the latest on that. Thank you very much for the question. Let me see if we got anything else I can bang out here. Do you guys think Jesse Puljujarvi for Gurianov trade could make sense for Edmonton and Dallas? Any thoughts on Gurianov? I always draft him late in hockey pools thinking that this will be the year, and it just hasn't been the case.
Yeah, he hasn't taken, hasn't he?
No.
I'd like it. I mean, maybe another case of both guys need a fresh start, but does Dallas want to part ways with Gurianov? Like,
I don't know. I'm not enough in tune with what's going on with the Stars there.
Yeah, and I would look at Dallas and go, that's a team that's just had a fantastic season. Do you want to tinker with a good thing if they think that they're going to make a big run here? Gurianov could be an important part of that. It's funny how guys emerge in the postseason too, especially when they have a tough regular season. We saw it with Mike Pekka years and years ago. I'm dating myself, but I think it'd be good if Edmonton could pull it off. I don't know if it's realistic, though. I never thought of that. That's an interesting one.
D Cards on the Twitter stream says, as per Rashog's Twitter, a big group hug for Skinner on the ice. All-star select? Or you're a dad? I would think that's congratulations, you're a dad. Look, I know Skinner's having a nice year, but he's a dad. And now it's a nice big team hug for being a dad. I remember when we had our son, all my buddies gathered around and we had a big hug too, Tommy.
Yes. All the feels for Stuart Skinner, young Bebe Skinner. Sorry, I snuck another one in there.
You guys
no, not all.
Stop with that shit. It's killing me.
You laugh every time, so I'm going to keep going.
I do. I think it's funny. All right, let's dive inside the numbers for Coolbet. I should actually get them to try to put like an over-under up for this. This will actually, you know what? I'll put in a request to the boys over at Coolbet, see if we can get a way that you can bet on this. Connor McDavid has 38 goals on the season in 46 games. I think somebody texted this in earlier on my show today. Tommy, he needs 12 goals to get to 50. What game number does he get it done in? Game 48 right now. When does Connor McDavid hit 50 goals? What game number is it?
Yeah, they're through 46, right?
Yep.
And then they've got Tampa, they've got Vancouver, Columbus, Chicago. I think he could score 5 or 6 in these next 4 games. That would put him at 43, 44.
Yeah.
So I'd go like game 54 would be my guess.
Ooh,
Game
wow,
54.
50 and 54. That's insane.
But
he's not far off that pace right now, right? Like, and that weak schedule, bunch of teams that can't play defense coming up.
And he's a guy that if you say, hey, Connor, like, you're great, but you can't do that. Come on. He goes, you know what? I'll show you, and generally shows us. So I think he's capable of doing it. Yeah, around 54, game 55, somewhere around there.
Yeah, I'm going to put it. Wow. What did we say he's at right now? He's at
38,
46. He's at 38. Can he get 12 goals in his next 10 games? And against this schedule, or with this schedule, yeah, man, he might be able to. Yeah?
Yeah.
Let's go. I'll go game 58. I'll go game 58. I'll say he gets 12 goals in his next 12 games, which is still absolutely insane to think of. But I think he's capable of it. Like, this guy's got 60 written all over it this year. It's just a matter of, I wouldn't be surprised if he beats Austin Matthews by 1 goal last year. Like Matthews stole last year by 1 goal. And then just be like, that's it. I'm done. I'll be ready for the playoffs. I could, that'd be quite the big man on campus move right there.
Are you noticing too that, like, the goal he scored last night, kind of similar to what he did against LA last week? Instead of trying to make that last deke to beat the last defender, he's just firing it.
Yeah.
And it's just, they're lasers. So I think he's added that wrinkle to his arsenal, which is deadly.
Yeah, that's bad news for everybody else around the National Hockey League. There's no doubt about that. All right, so jam-packed episode, went 27 minutes. Sorry if you like them to be more around 20, but just good conversation today with 2 buddies here. So we'll be back on Friday with another episode of the Oil Stream. Tommy, until then, get us out of here, buddy.
Oh, hashtag influencer. Be sure to follow me on TikTok now, Dusty. TikTok. I've stooped that low.
What's your TikTok?
Just Tom Gazzola.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, I know. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, smash that thumbs up button. We out. See you on Friday.